Hello everybody, well done for staying. The final hurdle you've got to get over. And that's a lot of business people looking at their devices. And that's the agency I work for. So I run a company called Yodel Mobile. We're a full-service mobile marketing agency. I've been asked to talk today about the future, but predominantly about the here and now. So within the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm hopefully going to answer that particular question. But I don't think any presentation is a presentation without a picture of Iggy Pop in it. So Iggy, for all you youngsters out there, you may or may not know him. He was the godfather of punk. 1976 to 78, he came to this wonderful fair city to try and rid himself of his atrocious drug habit. He made the massive mistake of actually getting a flat with David Bowie, who was also going through the same situation. But clearly, he's a lover of the city. But that wasn't the reason I wanted to put Iggy on a 10-foot by 20-foot screen. He was invited to do a lecture in Manchester about 4 weeks ago. It's a lecture called the John Peel Lecture, and it's something that the BBC organises every year, and some of the biggest, shiniest rock stars in the world have actually done it. What the Igster was presenting or talking about was, as you'd expect, music, but predominantly digital and mobile, and the effect that they were having on the music industry itself. And I won't do it in Iggy's voice because, as you can imagine, he's a man of about 69, but he sounds like he's 159. So I won't say this, but this was one of a number of cracking quotes that he actually came out with. Does anybody recognise the car, by the way? Yeah? So those ones that say, yeah, you know about the flux capacitor? Yeah? Cool. It's nothing to do with this presentation, but it's a fantastic thing. Before we look to the future, we really need to understand the present. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So back to mobile. The average smartphone has around about 41 apps on it. That's great. I mean, we all work in mobile. That's a wonderful, wonderful stat. However, 80% of those apps are only used once. Now, that's a frightening stat. And I think it's a way of actually allowing us all to sort of consolidate our thoughts as to if you're spending money on mobile marketing, arguably 80% of that could in fact be wasted. And just to sort of emphasize that fact, on average, out of the 41 apps we've got on our phone, we're only using 5 of those apps weekly. So that's probably a weather app, a news app, a sports app, a games app. So there's a lot of wastage. Okay, this is the interactive bit. Don't be shy. So you've seen a lot of presentations today. There's been some incredibly good advice given. How many people in this room, if you're a marketer or an agency, are working on app download strategies? Come on, let's see those hands. A few. Fantastic. Well, you, like probably every other business that has an app, are spending money somehow on generating downloads. The problem is everybody's off target because it's not about downloads. What we're trying to do is get engaged mobile device owners who use their download version of your application to perform important activities at key times and on a regular basis, rather than visiting related websites. That's what your strategy should be. And actually, to consolidate that into a better way of describing it, you've got to be focused on an engaged user and not a downloader. If you are focused on an engaged user, your strategy is going to be completely different if you are focusing on a downloader. And also it means that 80% of your budget that potentially is being wasted is not being wasted anymore. So if you're looking at getting app downloads, your job is only half done. De La Soul. Here we go. This is for the people that were alive in the 80s. Do you remember a song by De La Soul called 3 is the Magic Number? Good, because if you didn't, I was going to sing it to you. De La Soul, I promise I wouldn't do that. De La Soul were incredibly insightful for a band that were probably one of the 4 founders of rap. Anyway, I won't talk about that now. I will talk about 3 is the Magic Number. And what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years working in the mobile space, there seem to be key stages once an app is downloaded that activities need to be taking place. One of those is within 3 minutes of the app being downloaded. One is within 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months. This isn't necessarily a fixed and set rule, but these are the time periods that any app business should be thinking about what's going to happen. So let's quickly look at the 3-minute aspect. So imagine the situation. Somebody's seen an ad, somebody's gone to the App Store, it's been wonderfully ASO'd, you've found the app, you've downloaded it. The first and most important thing at that point, obviously, that it doesn't crash, but other than that, is that the initial user experience has to be right. So what that individual sees in the app when it's opened up for the first time relates exactly to what they saw in the App Store. The description works, the imagery is the same, the video that was used in that actually relates to the actual app that's being used. We would always recommend that there's an overlay within the app as well at that particular point, because the users have got it. It's the first experience, it's the first time they've experienced your application. So you should tell them how to use it, or tell them, thank you very much for downloading it, this is how other people use it. And once you've had that overlay period, the onboarding period, is to make sure that you include a push message argument. It could be an overlay, for instance, that will then tell those individuals why they should accept push messaging from you. And if you do that, you're not going to be one of those apps that only gets 15% acceptance of your push messaging. You're going to be one of those app businesses that gets 50 to 60%. And that is a hugely valuable audience. Okay, so 3 days, right, your app's been live, your advertising's been working, you've got lots of downloads, your ASO's working. What do you need to be thinking about? Don't sit back on your laurels, start thinking about the next step. So you need to then start undertaking your mobile CRM strategy. So assuming those lucky people, those 60%, 70% of people have accepted push messages, you can start compartmentalizing them. You're putting those into cohort groups. Those cohort groups you're sending specific messages to. So if they're light users within that 3-day period, give them incentives to become heavier users. If they haven't opened the app again, make sure you give them a message to tell them that the app's on their device and they should be looking at it. Review your tracking. Just make sure all the tracking from your advertising is working. It's actually giving you what you need to be able to set your KPIs and do your attribution advertising too. Review your optimization, make sure all of that's working, your keywords are relevant, respond to any negative feedback, really important, and especially in the Android environment, because you can respond back to those negative reviews straight away. And then implement any retargeting activity. So as soon as the apps are downloaded, you want to start rolling out some of that retargeting to make sure the individuals have got the app on their device, they see advertising that generates revisits. 3 weeks, we're getting there. We've only got three months to do after this. It's going to be a long presentation. So this is where, and it's been great that a lot of previous presenters have been sort of coming up with some of the solutions and suggestions I'm coming up with here. Send a review. So if after 3 weeks you've got people that are actually using your app quite often, they're the guys that are going to give it a positive review. So make sure that they're the ones that get that message to review it. Check your ASO again, ongoing MCR, so start reviewing your mCRM strategy, make sure that's working. Review your optimization, and if it's a sales app or a publishing app, you give them an offer to then subscribe for the second month for a reduced price. 3 months. This is really important. If you haven't already upgraded your app, you should do so. Make sure that all the bugs are fixed. Get a new app out there, tweak it, add some new functionality if that's relevant, and respond to all of the negative response that you may have had to make sure you tweak it and make sure it works. Reviewer optimization, lifetime value. It's been mentioned a few times today. Dead important here. After 3 months of activity, you should start seeing where the valuable customers have come from, those guys that have downloaded it and are using it on a regular basis. So now it's at this point that you need to start finding more of those guys so you can compartmentalize them and use advertising tracking to do. And then review your mCRM strategy again to make sure it's working. If you do all of that, the likelihood is that 80% of guys that haven't come back to your app will come back to your app and make sure that it's one of those 5 that you're using on a regular basis. Okay, I've got some more things to share with you. These are just some of my thoughts gleaned over the last 7 or 8 years that I've been working in mobile that I think are really, really relevant. Some of them are going to appear as incredible common sense, and I'm a great believer in common sense marketing. So, there's a surprise. Have a very clear role for mobile. I won't ask people to stick their hands up again, but I'm sure there are people in here that are working on app strategies for apps that if you then took 2 or 3 months out and rethought about what you were doing or what your business was doing, you think, did we actually come to the mobile space with exactly the right idea? So define that role for mobile. Is it about generating additional income? Is it about building a greater relationship with your consumers? Is it about getting people to search in the mobile space and purchase online? Once you've defined that, it makes it very easy to actually put together the right solution for your app. Another reference to a past pop star that used to live in Berlin. Make your app useful. Make sure it's a hero for more than just one day. Again, if you come into the app market, what are you doing in the application that's going to be different to what you've got online or in a mobile website? There has to be a reason for doing that. And keep updating your apps. We talked about it in the 3-month period earlier. Add new features and tell your users about those bug fixes. Consumers in mobile expect to see change. They're used to it. The speed of development and movement in the mobile space is huge. You have to keep up with that. And also remember as well, your app might not necessarily be what you anticipated or how the consumers are using it in the long run. They may find out you may find out that the app is actually being used more for snacking on short-term information or for search or for review, and then finally they might be making the purchase on the website. If this is the case, you might, with all the activity you're doing in the mobile space, say, well, is it worth us promoting and pushing and building and developing this app or more apps? Because people aren't using it as we anticipated. It may be adding to other activities. I've said it a few times, but your mobile eCRM, what happens after the app's downloaded is really important. And too many businesses are forgetting this particular factor. So make sure your eCRM is working properly. And the good thing is that well over 50% of people, if you speak to them correctly at the right time and give them the right argument will actually accept push messaging, which makes your job a lot easier. And finally, work with people that have already made the mistakes in the marketplace. So whether they're internal teams, agencies, or networks, these are the guys that have been in the sector for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They will have made the mistakes first, and it's more advantageous for you to work with those kind of guys so you don't make them. They've already had the trouble. And the good news is that, or the most interesting piece of news, I think, in this presentation is that, and this is something from Weave, that they're a joint venture between Telefonica and a number of the other big UK-based carriers. Nearly 50% of all 18 to 34-year-olds believe that mobile is the most important screen they have. Now, that means it's more important to them than their laptops and their televisions. And that figure will only increase. So, the future is clearly dogs flying around the world in spacesuits with mobile phones. Maybe it isn't. No, it's not. It's not. So the future of mobile, I think mobile is having some absolutely incredible and fundamental changes on the way that society as a whole operates, works, and also thinks. Mobile is changing the way that people shop, and I don't mean the way that people are actually shopping on their mobile phone. It's how people take that shopping journey. So in the old days, you'd see a TV ad, you'd go out to the shop on a Saturday and you'd buy that pair of jeans. That still happens, but it's changed beyond all doubt. Shopping now starts on the sofa, and it doesn't necessarily mean to be related with the TV advertising itself. It's when an individual, whether that's me or my wife, we're looking for a certain article of clothing or a book or a new electronic goods or whatever, you start doing that search on the sofa or on the top deck of the bus or under the desk at work when nobody's looking. And what that's giving you is the opportunity to do price comparisons, retailer search, the opportunity to click and pick, so buy it on a mobile and then go and pick it up later. But the point I'm trying to make here, probably in a very convoluted roundabout way, is that journey is no longer linear. It's a very very roundabout. It's a very roundabout route now, and mobile plays a massive part of that. Business powers up with an application. We're seeing businesses that have been bimbling along in the online space. When they've got it right with mobile, it's actually boosted their sales, boosted their profile, boosted their engagement with their existing customers and the relationships incredibly. And also, you look at applications or businesses that couldn't be without the mobile space. So, I mean, great example is Uber and Halo, two app hailing cabs applications that just wouldn't be without mobile. I think the TV and mobile are going to be inextricably linked. And what I mean by that is, and it's not been cracked yet, but at some point the advertisers, the TV advertisers, are going to be able to talk with your applications on your mobile devices. And bearing in mind that the majority of surfing on tablets is actually done after 6 o'clock at night when you're sitting on the sofa, that's going to be an incredibly powerful way of communicating with those app users. Data. I think we've probably said this word more than any today. And it is so important in mobile. And if you can crack that data and see the data that you need to be seeing, it will make your jobs A, a hell of a lot easier, and B, incredibly more profitable. So for anybody in the room that's looking to employ people over the next 5 years, make sure they're digital. So make sure they are maths or statistic graduates. It's part and parcel of everybody that we bring in. Trust. Trust is so important. I think there's too much work being done in app development without thinking about how is this, if the app doesn't work, are our customers going to believe us and trust in us anymore? So I think we as a community need to make sure that we're responding to negative reviews and building that trust up in the mobile space, because again, I think a lot of that has been hit. The user, mobile is actually changing the way that a lot of people think and do things. And again, it's not how they use mobile and the implications for us, but how mobile is rewiring the way that individuals think. People expect things now more quicker because they can surf the internet then and there. They might be in the toilet. They might be, stopped at a traffic light and they're searching for, directions. It's giving us the opportunity to do things as and when we need to, and in a very relevant context. And I don't think there has been enough research into understanding how these consumers and users, it's us basically, how we respond to this and the implications on a broader field, how we deal in the digital space, how we actually purchase things. And I hope that a lot of this kind of information is going to be explored over the next few years, because it's going to affect an awful lot of other areas of marketing. Apple, they've been quiet, I think, for the last few years, but I still think they've got something up their sleeve that will help change the way and evolve, make the evolution of mobile a little bit speedier. I mean, they changed it with the smartphone, and they changed it with the iPad only 3 or 4 years ago. Something is going to happen. There's the Ixter again. Bless him, he's a bit scary in that picture, isn't he? He was having a right go at the big music companies, and he finished with a quote which was predominantly talking about, okay, the big guys out there, they control the channels, they control what music is played. But he made the point saying, but the indie kids have the guns. So they're the guys at the end that are really going to shoot up the whole music scene. And without them, there wouldn't be a music scene. So, that's really scary, especially that size. I strongly believe that although the big guys, the Googles, the Facebooks of this world, will control the channels, it's the geeks that's actually going to really change the way that mobile works. And those guys, they're possibly in a flat in Berlin or Manchester or Boston, developing something right now that will, in 4 or 5 years, is going to change the way that we use mobile. And I think that's wonderful. Another great German. I love this quote, so I thought I'd put it into the presentation because we're getting to the end of it. This is great, and it's coming back to that point about the geeks, that they don't care. If they have an idea, they believe it can be done, they will find a way of doing it. And imagination is more important than knowledge. And I think that's a good rule to follow your life with. Mobile is going to continue to evolve. That's a family shot of me and my family, by the way, with our mobile devices. There's about 1.9 billion people in the world that have currently got smartphones. That is only going to go north. So my final thought for today is, you've heard a lot of stuff today, some great advice, there's been some fantastic insight, but there is no easy solution to guarantee mobile marketing success. It comes right back to the basics: hard work, intelligent planning, testing, and some serious commitment. Thank you very much. That's me as Ziggy Stardust. Thank you.